Recorded in sinfully sunny Las Vegas, Nevada. Avantpop Bookstore presents interviews.
Joining us on this next episode of Avantpop Bookstore Presents, we have Troy Hurd. Troy is the founder of Majestic Repertory Theatre in the Arts District here in Las Vegas. Troy is also the director and producer of many of the theater's shows. We sit down to discuss his theatrical journey and his latest show, Hedwig and the Angry Inch. I am your guest host, Sugar Laytart. Please join me in welcoming Troy Hurd. Joining me now is Troy Hurd with Majestic Repertory Theatre, located in the Arts District in downtown Las Vegas, currently doing a production of Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Hello, Troy. Welcome.
Hello, Sugar. Glad to be here.
For listeners who aren't familiar with Majestic Theatre, can you start off by telling us a little bit about the theater?
Majestic Rep opened in 2016 in the Arts District before it became the popular place to be in Las Vegas. It is technically a 99-seat storefront, and what it really is an arts incubator for weirdos and freaks and outcasts and clowns. It's actually a home for lots of creation, and if that sounds very high level, it kind of is. But it's also it's a storefront theater, but we definitely have a vision. Our mission is to find in Las Vegas the voices that will change American theater. And by that, we've also created a home for some really visionary work and some visionary creatives. It's like nothing else you're going to see in the city. It's extraordinarily intimate, and we take a lot of pride in that.
Well, we knew there was something offbeat and weird about your theater when we saw Charles Manson.
The Manson family in opera. That one thing we've become known for is our immersive theater or interactive works. Long story short, I grew up as a haunted house fanatic, so I was not a theater person. I was a horror film guy growing up as a dyed-in-the-wool Gen X Saturday morning cartoon, Applejacks eating weirdo in Columbus, Georgia, who just loved the scary things. I loved haunted houses, and I loved walking through them and having people jump out at you, and not realizing until many, 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 many years later that's going to become an actual theatrical form called immersive theater. So when I was jumping around a bunch, get ready for this one, Sugar. When I was in college, I remember going to Turtles Records and finding a CD called The Manson Family in Opera. And being a purveyor of the dark, of course, I bought that along with my copy of Rent. And it was an avant-garde opera commissioned by the Lincoln Center in 94, I want to say, by a guy named John Moran. And John was a protege of Philip Glass's. And it was the weirdest thing. And Iggy Pop played a character on it called the Prosecutor. And I would listen to this bizarre avant-garde piece and just stage these ridiculous scenes in my head, not knowing what it would ever actually look like in real life. Jump to many years later, Majestic has made a name for itself here in Las Vegas as a creator of immersive events. We received a message on Facebook from a guy named John Moran, who turns out was the composer, who said, "I see what you're doing there. Would you be interested in staging my piece called The Manson Family in Opera? And it's not been produced since Lincoln Center." I said, "Mr. Moran, I grew up on your CD." He said, "Really?" And we connected on the fact that we both, as kids, essentially wanted to become Disney Imagineers, creating these, walk-through events. And he always saw the Manson family as that. So we were able to stage the second production of that show ever as an immersive show. And you walked through Majestic. We broke it out into 7 scenes. You went through a giant television set, stepped onto a TWA airplane, went to Cielo Drive, went to Spawn Ranch, dropped acid, went to a courtroom. It was a multimedia phantasmagoria.
All I have to say is wow.
That's what we said too.
I'm kind of speechless.
So yeah, we're not doing your traditional Odd Couple Neil Simon plays.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I think for having entertainment off the strip, Majestic is definitely at the top for people who are trying to look for something off the strip.
Yeah, not to humble brag a lot, but we do get tourists who come to Las Vegas and Majestic as part of their itinerary. It's not just let's go gamble and see Cirque du Soleil. They will come to Majestic, and now that Meow Wolf is here, and Jason Egan, who runs the Saw Escape Room, the Blair Witch Escape Room, which are amazing experiences. The detail, the art direction of those, we consider immersive theater as well. You can come here, spend an entire weekend doing this cutting edge art and not set foot in a casino.
That's my kind of experience in Vegas. I'll sign up for that. So when you started Majestic, how did you choose Main Street?
Main Street chose us. Actually, sitting here in Avantpop, across the parking lot was the theater called the Onyx Theater, and it is now a church. Ironically, the Onyx was opened many years ago by a guy named Michael Morris and his partner Randy Lang, who actually owned at the time Hawks Gym, which was a gay male bathhouse. And they had a fetish shop called The Rack, and there was space in the back, warehouse space, that Michael wanted to turn into a live theater. So he did, and they went through several generations of artistic directors. First, they started doing strictly LGBTQ themed works. Then they brought in a company called Insurgo. Evil Dead the Musical got its Las Vegas start there. And eventually, I had four-walled it for a couple of projects. And being a revolving door of artistic directors, there was a time they had called me in and said, hey, would you be interested in managing the theater and essentially being the artistic director? And I never in my life had I ever wanted to have my own venue. I'm fine freelancing and finding weird spaces to do weird shows in. But as I was sitting there in their office, just around the corner from the store right here, I got a notification on my phone that said, you are currently overdrawn in Wells Fargo. And I said, listen, if you can give me carte blanche to run this place and guarantee me a weekly salary, I will certainly come run your venue. So I did. And we started off doing strict comedies. Just at the time, Commercial Center had kind of a seedy reputation as the red light district. And you guys over here in New Orleans Square have done so much to change that and bend it and make it really an arts destination, which is cool. But again, we're talking 6, 7, 8 years ago, different world. So I tried to do everything I can to attract a different clientele into the theater. Did lots of improv, did lots of comedies, did lots of musicals. We did a show called Reservoir Dolls, which was an all-woman version of Reservoir Dogs. We did Heathers the Musical. I directed Hedwig there for my second time, my first time in Las Vegas. And we were killing it. We were just absolutely crushing it. We were turning people away at the door. Very successful. Lots of eyes on the neighborhood, on the theater. But through some bugaboos, we'll say, I wanted to get a beer and wine license because I knew as a theater you need to have diverse revenue streams. Ticket sales aren't necessarily the only way to survive as a small storefront. So, not speaking out of school because bless his heart, bless his soul, Randy's no longer with us. Randy was unable to pass the background check. We were unable to get the liquor license, and they offered to sell the business to me with the caveat that it couldn't leave Commercial Center. And I was like, I think we can grow. So I had a patron at the time. His name was Todd Von Bastian. He and his partner Brian McCarthy were big supporters of the arts. They still are. They had a venue down on Main Street, which at the time had Casa Don Juan and Velveteen Rabbit. and Coolsville Tattoo. That was essentially all you found down there. This is way before Esther's was ever considered. This is way before it became a one-way street from the Strip to downtown. It was still two-way. It was rough. People were scared to go down there. And Todd said, listen, I see what you're doing here. I have faith in you. Let's get you to the Arts District. He had a storefront called ALIOS, which he had random art shows in there. It was his lighting gallery. It was, a bunch of random things because he took lots of chances on people. And he said, come make this a theater. And for the first 2 years, he foot the bill for Majestic Repertory Theatre to have a home in what is now the most vibrant neighborhood in Las Vegas. So it all goes to Todd Von Bastian. So short story long, there you go.
That was great. We love learning about little pockets of history of Vegas, and especially ones that are from the commercial center, because there's a lot of stories that come from here.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's very important. I'm not from Vegas. I'm from Georgia originally, and I lived here for 2 years. I went to grad school in Savannah College of Art and Design, moved here, worked for Cirque du Soleil from 2005 to 2007, went back to Georgia from 07 to 09, and, opened a theater company for my then fiance in the height of the recession, which is a terrible time to open up any sort of nonprofit. So I tucked my tails between my legs, came back here, because when I was here from 07 to 09, I saw a lot of potential in the city that was not the Strip. I saw the Wild West. I saw a city that had art, had culture, but it was very, the focus wasn't on it, because the focus didn't have to be on it. The main industry in the city was tourism, was the Strip. But I knew that could change. I had faith that with all this groundswell of action here, eventually the spotlight would turn. I mean, you're already an international destination for one thing. Eventually the spotlight would turn. Unfortunately, it took a recession and a pandemic, to earth-shattering tragedies for it to happen. But I knew it was going to happen, and here we are now, and we're seeing a rebuilding and a refocusing of attention. That's Avantpop here in Commercial Center. Back when I was running the Onyx, the last thing I would have ever imagined was this really cool bookstore, right across the way. But today, 100%, absolutely see it here with the art galleries and Square Bar and everything else that's popping up.
Yeah, well, we feel like, we originally weren't imagining to have a retail space because we were online and event-based, but this kind of came upon us, and we're like, this is the only place we would want to have it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Well, I want to get into the current production at Majestic, which is Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Mm-hmm. And as we're recording it, you've done a first week?
Yeah, we finished the first week of shows last night, Sunday night.
Congrats.
Thank you.
And I know Hedwig. I haven't seen a stage play of Hedwig, but I know from the 2001 adaptation of the film. And I'm excited to go in early next month to see it. But for people who don't know what Hedwig is, it's probably, of course, go to the performance to actually understand everything. But can you give us a synopsis?
Come blind, no matter what. Don't do a lot of research. People compare Hedwig to Rocky Horror, and I think that's just on the level of the cult fanaticism behind the show. But Hedwig is the story of Hedwig. Hedwig, the character of Hedwig Robinson starts out as Hansel Schmidt. Hansel Schmidt is a young man who grows up on the other side of the Berlin Wall, East Berlin, has had a lot of challenges in his life, and meets a U.S. soldier named Luther who says, hey, if you want to have a life beyond the wall, of course this really dates it to 80s, 90s. If you want to have a life beyond the wall, I'll marry you. But to marry you, you have to give up a part of yourself. You have to have a sex change operation. And so, long story short, Hansel has the sex change operation. It's botched. He's left with a 1-inch genital, but pops on that wig, comes over to America. Luther leaves him, and he goes through a series of heartbreaks. That synopsis does an extraordinary disservice to this show, to this story. Hedwig and the Angry Inch. You said you've only seen the movie?
Correct.
You've never seen it live?
No.
Holy shit. Sugar.
I'm very excited.
First time I saw it was in 2000 in New Orleans. I was there with a girlfriend at the time. We were going up and down the French Quarter trying to find something to do. We found a club called the Shim Sham Club. And we were, in quite a state of inebriation and intoxication, looking for something to do. And the Shim Sham guy, the bouncer, said, we got a show tonight. It's called Hedwig and the Angry Inch. It's a concert. It's a punk glam rock. And we looked at the flyer. It said bad wigs, bad jokes, and Zima. I said, we're in. Let's go see what this thing is. So we come back later that night to the Shim Sham Club. We ask the bartender, what's your drink of choice? They said it is a thing called Red Bull and vodka. And Red Bull at the time came in these little brown bottles. That was written in Thai, had 2 little bulls stamped on it. It was syrup. Drank that. Oh my God, we were floating. And then we sat through the next 90 minutes, the most amazing live performance, this punk rock glam concert with this person in this wig and this makeup telling this heartbreaking story of losing themselves and giving up parts of themselves for love and ultimately finding love within themselves and going on with life with the most beautiful music. There's a song called The Origin of Love, which tells the origin of why we fall in love and why we're trying to meet our other halves. Just this emotional journey you get taken on makes you feel like you're back at CBGB's watching Blondie and television and the Talking Heads, but with this storytelling worthy of Shakespeare and this performance like none other. I saw that and then said, oh crap. Between the Manson family and rent CDs at Turtles, there was Hedwig and the Angry Inch, and this thing is an off-Broadway musical. It moved me like nothing else, and just the dynamic of storytelling through theater as a concert with drag and trans power was the most transformative thing I'd ever experienced. Then the movie came out, and my girl and I at the time, we saw the movie multiple times in the theater. Every time it was performed in Atlanta, we went to see it. I wound up directing a production of it in Atlanta. There's just something about it. Until you experience Hedwig, you just can't compare it to anything else. Once you see it, there's just something about the music, about the performance, and the movie. If you watch the movie, it's brilliant. Hedwig was developed in New York over the 90s by a guy named John Cameron Mitchell, who was a Broadway performer. Did lots of ensemble sort of roles, supporting roles, but he performed this character based on a nanny he had. He was a military family, grew up in a military family, so had this German nanny and took parts of that, developed a character named Hedwig, worked with a guy named Stephen Trask who wrote all this music. He had a band that performed at a club called Squeezebox, and eventually took this thing off Broadway and became a cult hit, and then it's been performed throughout the world, honestly, and it had a Broadway revival a handful of years ago with Neil Patrick Harris. Well, Broadway premiere. It was never actually on Broadway.
Well, a little known fact, I'm a big Rent head from when it came out in the 90s and saw that multiple times with Neil Patrick Harris.
Oh, wow.
When I saw Neil Patrick Harris was playing Hedwig, I did not see it, but I did cut out the magazine of the glittered Neil Patrick Harris and kept that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, this is all really amazing information that is just like blowing me away right now. So thank you for sharing all of that. I did want to touch on The Origin of Love. The music is amazing in this. Just on its own is just really amazing. The Origin of Love makes me cry every single time I hear it. How are all of your performances musicals or no?
At Majestic, no, we do a variety. For example, the next production we're having is called Inherit the Wind, which, unlike anything else, is a 1955 Chestnut, a classic Broadway show. But it's about the 1920s Scopes monkey trial, which took place in Tennessee, where the school teacher was arrested for teaching Darwin's Origin of Species to his class, which went against the Tennessee Butler Act, which forbade teachers from teaching anything that was contrary to the Bible. So the ACLU stepped in and challenged it with a trial that went worldwide. So no, not everything Majestic does is musical, but I tend towards musicals because I have ADHD and it stimulates all parts of my brain.
So are they all immersive?
Because of the nature of the space, there is a sense of immersive. There is a sense of being right there in the middle of the action. I don't want to say gimmick, but the conceit of Hedwig is wherever you see it live, that's where the show's being done. For example, when they did it off Broadway, they found a hotel down in the Bowery. I think it was called the Hotel Riverside, which is where the Titanic survivors were housed. So there are lots of references to that. For this particular production, we've transformed the space. The conceit of this one is because of high rent prices, Majestic has sublet our space to the Buffalo Exchange clothing store next door to become the Buffalo Exchange clearance outlet. So you're seeing Hedwig and the Angry Inch in the Buffalo Exchange clearance outlet. So yes, it is immersive in that regard, and there is a lot of interaction. We have 2 levels of seating. We have general admission and VIP stage side, but everyone gets involved in this show.
Okay, I have curiosity and I'm excited to experience it because in Q Vegas article it specified the show is a fourth wall smashing musical sensation. Mm-hmm. So I was curious about the fourth wall smashing.
What fourth wall? There is no fourth wall. Once you're there, you're there. That's the magic of the show is you're Hedwig's audience. Again, it's not like going to the Smith Center, the curtain rises and you're watching a show that's taking place right there on that set. Hedwig is there. You are a witness to this concert that's being done as he's honestly chasing his former lover, Tommy Gnosis, who's on this great national, A-list concert. Tommy tonight is performing at the Allegiant Stadium while Hedwig's stuck down in the Arts District at this little storefront dive. So that's a whole other plot point you'll get when you see the show.
And I have to mention that costume, hair, and makeup. Mm-hmm. Do you have specific crew, or I don't even know what people mm-hmm. that you hire for this, or do the actors do it themselves?
For this, we had 2 teams. There's 2 main characters in the show. There's Hedwig, who plays Hedwig, and no spoiler alerts, I can't say anything else. But there's another performer who plays Yitzhak, who is Hedwig's husband / roadie, and Yitzhak was the best drag queen in Croatia, who went by the name Crystal Nacht. Until Hedwig went there, Crystal got bigger applause than Hedwig did, drowned out Hedwig's introduction, and so Hedwig said, you can escape Croatia, come with me, but you can't put another wig on your head. So there's 2 main characters. There's a 4-person band. So for wardrobe and costume for this one, my friend who's playing Hedwig, their name is Stefan Scrogan. Stefan was St. Jimmy when we did American Idiot. He was actually the prosecutor, the Iggy Pop role when we did the Manson opera, and Tobias when we did Sweeney Todd right before lockdown. So Stefan has a phenomenal crew. He has a costume designer who did all his wardrobe, a wig designer who did this beautiful Aquanet lungs, and Stefan's also a drag performer by the name Anya Knees, and so Stefan did their own makeup, and Zelda Fairfax as Yitzhak has their own costume and hair and makeup team. So normally for a live theatrical show, you'll have a costume designer who designs the entire show, and hair and makeup who designs the entire, but we went character by character instead this time because they're so unique and so individual.
I think that's a great aspect of the performance as well, in the fact that of the message of expressing who you are or how you feel. And I think especially in today's world, it's a very important message to be able to provide to people.
Right. Especially in a show like Hedwig, which is all about self-identity and finding oneself, claiming oneself. I mean, the high level story is Hedwig's given up a part of herself to try to be their self, to try to find love. You know, I gave a piece to my mother. I gave a piece to my man. I gave a piece to my rock star. He took the good stuff and ran is one of the last lyrics. And ultimately, you have to find the love within yourself to survive. That's the origin of love. It's not that we've been split into two. And we have to find our other half. We have to find our other half within ourselves and find the grace to let the other halves go. If, you know, we find anyone who's finding that connection, it's just a matter of growth.
I'm getting all teary-eyed already just thinking about it.
I mean, that's one. Here's the thing about Hedwig. Well, Stefan and I were actually in rehearsal for this back in March 2020. And oh my God, I literally remember bringing down our steel security doors and spray painting "Wash Your Hands" after one rehearsal. And we said, hey, you know, we're going to have to hang the show up for now. We'll come back this summer and do it. And you know how that story wound up. So this is really a show that's almost 3 years in the making. But we both agreed, you know, we're glad we're doing the show now and not then, because we've both been through so much growth in our personal lives and our personal relationships. This is the third time I've directed it, and I don't think I've understood it even ever better than I have now, and how important it is to find grace for your other halves and find grace for those who, you know, you set these expectations for people to fill holes in your lives, but you can't do that. You've got to fill your own holes. You got to fill your own needs so you can be there for somebody else ultimately. And we're finding things in the show, in this text, that, you know, we've glossed over. Like Stefan and I are both heads. We love this show. That's why we decided, hey, let's tackle it. But again, we're finding just the richness of the performance. And I'm going to tell you, our first week of audiences has just shown that we did the right thing. And you're going to get the scoop here. We've extended the show already. Yeah, right now we're at a 6-week run. We're about to announce an 8-week run, and we're clearing our schedules for even more because the audience response is phenomenal. Our sales for the show have been unlike anything we've had in a long time. And knock on wood, we're really grateful for this. We need it.
Yeah, there's customers of Avantpop that just commented on social media. We're thinking about seeing it again. When are you going?
Oh, I love it.
Wow, that's such a special moment for the theater right now.
Yeah.
You know, this reminds me of the television series We're Here on HBO. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet.
Have you heard of it?
Mm-mm.
I highly recommend.
Actually, I have heard of it.
Okay.
I have heard of it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Shangela and Bob the Drag Queen.
Bob went to my alma mater. Yep. Yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't seen it yet.
I highly recommend it in the parallels of the messaging that Hedwig's story has, but also the self-expression and also bringing in communities of people who have felt left out. The show makes me laugh and cry, and the fashion is just amazing. The hair, the makeup, the amazing work that their team does is really fantastic.
Yeah, fashion's important in this world too. I mean, of course, Hedwig's running a second strand operation. You know, they're not A-list, but we call her Trash Barbie. But as for the response and the necessariness of the show, I mean, this is a show for everyone who has been in love, who has fallen out of love, regardless of gender orientation, regardless of sexuality. We've all been in love. We've all had our hearts broken. We've all broken hearts. We've all regretted things we've done to loved ones in the past. If you've ever had a single empathetic impulse in your life, this show is for you. But Stefan has told me after the show that he's had, I mean, the queer response, the queer audience the response has been tremendous. He had a young trans man come up to him, and I mentioned that the sex operation got botched, that he wound up with the titular Angry Inch, and that's the name of the band as well. He has a line talking to Tommy Speck, who became the rock star Tommy Gnosis. He tells Tommy, love the front of me. Just love the front of me. And he had a trans man come up to him and say, you know, that line just resonated with them more than anything else. And it was just in tears. And he's had several audience members come up to him afterwards saying just the resonance of the love story and the heartbreak and the reconciliation Hedwig finds at the end has moved them like nothing else. And they feel like they've been heard, that they've been seen unlike ever before. So, you know, the question of whether or not to extend the show and, you know, make it available to more audiences, it's a no-brainer. We just absolutely have to. It's part of our mission at Majestic.
Yeah, well, we're excited that you're on here so we can let people who've never been to a show before feel inspired to start going to shows. I wanted to ask you, since you said Majestic opened on Main Street around 2016, is that right?
Yep.
And there's been a lot of changes since then. Of course, there was the pandemic in between, sandwiched in between all of that. But in general, as kind of a staple of Main Street, your experience as a local business, what is your experience like with those changes?
It's not been bad. I'm going to say that. There have been some challenges that have arisen for audiences. Back in the day, you know, people were afraid to come to Main Street because I guess someone got shot on the street corner back in 1972. And locals hold on to that 25, 30 years later, you know, a fluke accident. But we have built a loyal audience from the beginning. Now, during the pandemic, we did receive the Save Our Stages grant, which helped us stay alive. We have our landlord, Becky Miller, is a flippin' saint. She kept us alive during 2020. She abated our rent because she had faith in our mission and what we do as a destination for the area. We got a beer and wine license. I created a lobby. And when I created the lobby, for the first time, we had these roll-up doors that were shut down because I thought it was so very Rent, so very edgy. And we'd graffiti the title of the show out on the metal doors thinking, oh, yeah, we're just here on the edge. We're so downtown. But when I laid out the lobby, I rolled up the windows, rolled up the metal doors and saw through the windows just the foot traffic that we had never seen there before. And just so many more people were discovering Main Street. I mean, you can't get more Americana than flipping Main Street, you know what I mean? And we have an ice cream parlor now. I mean, this may as well be like Music Man and Harold Hills dancing down, you know, singing Shapoopy. But it's really become a gathering place for a lot of Las Vegans, like old-time Las Vegans, brand new Las Vegans who are transplants from New York and LA and other cities. It just feels very good being there. Challenges are, oh man, you know, now we have paid parking, and Las Vegas is a very particular city about its parking. We're working with the city to alleviate the pressure on that for our audiences. Aside from that, I mean, it really is. It's nice to see families coming by, to see all sorts, to see downtowners coming by, and I don't know. I mean, it's really cool to see something that is in Las Vegas that is not the Strip, and to see tourists coming down, discovering what is very real, what is very local, what is very community, what is Las Vegas. You know, my only wish is the LVCVA, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, would jump aboard and start promoting it as much as they promote, you know, the big money casinos. But I think that's going to be a fight we're going to be fighting for a long time.
I would love to see the monorail go all the way to District downtown.
I'd love to see the monorail. I mean, it services one side. We can't talk about that.
Come down to Commercial Center and then go down.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. We've got the Loop, though. Fortunately, the Loop stops on Main Street, so we're grateful for that. Maybe you can get over here in Commercial Center one day. See, it's a little couple blocks off, but
yeah, it's not too far.
I mean, you've got my favorite. I mean, I love Como here. I used to eat at Como all the time when I was at the Onyx.
Yeah, you can empty your wallet on books and food here.
Yeah. What more do you need?
On the topic of food, if somebody wanted to go to a show at Majestic and get a bite to eat or some dinner or drinks before or after? What do you recommend?
Everywhere. Oh my God. What do you want? What are you in the mood for? Are you vegan? Go to Tacatarian. It's vegetarian Mexican. There's Don Juan, which is across the street, which is very traditional, refried beans and tacos. Esther's Kitchen. If you plan ahead, make a reservation a couple of weeks in advance, you might be able to get into Esther's. I can tell you that's when the neighborhood changed. I remember when Esther's put their vinyl up over on California. I said, oh my God, who's going to come down to this place? What the hell is this? James Trees has nailed it. I mean, he has become the most popular restaurant in Las Vegas, and I'm so happy for him and all those people. And I used to be able to walk in, grab a seat at the bar, get a pizza, but nah, you got to reserve. I mean, Monday night at 10 p.m., forget it. We're big fans of You or Me Sushi. They actually have a Majestic roll, so you can go get the Majestic roll with some king crab. Good Pie is right across the street. Go get you a slice. Even Davies, if you want to hang out with a bunch of actors, we go to Davies right next door. It's Davies Locker. It's a bar, but they have really good food, burgers. I mean, the options are limitless. And like I said, we have an ice cream parlor and a Freed's Bakery now. That's an old Vegas institution.
Sounds like this is a whole other podcast episode.
Oh yeah.
I did want to give you a moment to share about if people wanted to become a patron of the local arts and be a Majestic member.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we do have a membership program. We don't have season subscriptions. We keep it flexible because as we learned from the pandemic, you can plan a fabulous season and it can get waylaid by a global catastrophe. I do like to keep our scheduling somewhat flexible so we can adapt with what our community wants and what our neighborhood needs and, honestly, what my tastes are at the time. But we are a 501c3 nonprofit. If you do love the local arts and you want to see this thrive, we do have a membership program. You can sign up through our website at majesticrepertory.com. There's all sorts of perks, including we're such a small space, we don't do reserved seating, but if you're a member, we do give you reserved seating for that. We do give you prime seating, and there's opportunities to come observe a rehearsal or come and take a backstage tour. But yeah, there's lots of fun little perks, and we do have some really exciting things coming up this year. We have a collaboration we're in the middle of right now with a Broadway writing team, Richard O'Brocker and Robert Taylor. They wrote a show called Bandstand that ran on Broadway. We premiered their show The Sandman a couple of Christmases ago, which was it was like a Tim Burton movie on stage. We're developing a brand new musical with them set in the 80s. We have a project called Burn Me Down, which is written by Joanna Garner, who is the narrative director for Meow Wolf. And that's in development right now. And as we get details set for that, we'll announce them. So you've got the scoop on all this stuff tonight.
Well, we feel very special.
I blame the whiskey.
I had one other question. Oh, yes. If people are interested in auditioning, is that open to anyone in the community?
Absolutely. Just follow. We get asked that all the time. All I can say is follow our Instagram. We are a repertory company, so we do have an ensemble that we pull from for a lot of projects, but we do have, when we have open auditions, we announce them. And so you just have to follow our social media through our Instagram, our Twitter, our TikTok, our, God forbid, Facebook. But yeah, it's all, when it's up there, it's up there. So you just have to follow it. And that's the thing about Las Vegas is slowly it's growing into a city where you can stay here and make somewhat of a living as a performer off the Strip. It's taken a while, but there's companies like Vegas Theater Company and a Public Fit Theater Company that, for many, many years, it's just been community theater with no pay, and it's avocational. But there's several of us who have made the dedication to pay our artists, which is extraordinarily important, especially these days.
That's great. I love to hear that. Let's keep the entertainment off strip going.
100%.
Well, Troy, I wanted to thank you for coming on to the show. We're really happy to have you and tell everyone about what you got going on.
Thanks for having me. And I think I've got inspiration to actually pull the trigger and do Rent.
Oh, well, that's really
I wish you
exciting.
could see her face right now,
Oh,
folks. She is so happy.
I want to let all of our listeners know, whether you're local or visiting Las Vegas, make sure to buy your tickets to Hedwig before they sell out.
Mm-hmm. And come support Avantpop because this bookstore is so cool.
Thank you. Well, on that, we're all done.
The theme music for Avantpop Bookstore Presents is performed by artist Dillashu. And I hope you can join us again for another edition of Avantpop Bookstore Presents.